Looks like Al's got a question here. After I change the default parameters of an indicator, when I use that indicator in BloodHound, it seems to put up the original parameters rather than my new default settings. Any way around this? Alright, let's see. Al's got a clarification here, I think. In other words, I have to change the settings in the parameters list when inserting the indicator into BloodHound. Okay, yeah, I think I understand what you're saying there, Al. So let's take a look at this. All right, how about, let's see. All right, I'm going to take my stochastics indicator and just modify the parameters there. All right, and we'll set. We'll create a set as default there, and all right, close that out. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up BloodHound here, and let's see, I'll just use the threshold solver, and we'll add our stochastics indicator into this. So we'll change our indicator from the SMA over to the stochastics. And as a little shortcut, I can just hit the T key, and it drops me all the way down to the T's, and I can see the stochastics is right there. So I'll double click on that, and yeah, so what right now BloodHound doesn't have the capabilities to read that set default parameter. Yeah, so just so everybody else understands here, let's see, let me click OK. When you open up your indicator, so we're inside NinjaTrader's indicator window, right? And you create this set default file. That's actually a NinjaTrader file. It's a file that NinjaTrader creates that stores all the settings that you have here in the parameters list. And so NinjaTrader only loads that file up inside their own indicator window. Oops, let me close this out. And so when you open up the indicator window in BloodHound, this is a custom window for BloodHound, that rewrote. So as you see, the title's a little different. It says select indicator. So BloodHound's select indicator window doesn't read those set default files. Yeah, so there's no way to do that. You just have to go in here and just change these settings yourself like that. So maybe that may be a possibility that we could add into BloodHound in the future. So Al, if you would like to email that suggestion in to us, please feel free to, and we'll add it to the list. Let's see. All right. Well, since I already have this solver on here, I guess I'll just kind of give you a quick tutorial on how the threshold solver works. So let's see. In the case of the stochastics, let's say we want to know when the stochastics is above 70, or if it's below 20. So you can see on the chart here that I've got the 70 line on here and the 20 line. So if we want to know when the stochastic is above 70 here, you can see the description here is now changed. It says for at 70 or greater. So if we want a long signal out of here, when the stochastics is at 70 or greater, we can put a 1 in there. And then we can see down here, the short output, we're in the short output section. If we want a short output when the stochastics is at 20 or less, we can put a 1 in here. And let's see if, oh, yeah, let's see. And that's all right, 1023. So why am I not getting an output there? Oh, okay, yes, sorry. I made a classic mistake here. So when you're putting threshold values in here, you know, this is a classic mistake. The threshold values have to be in descending order, right? So I can't have a 0 between 70 and 20 because that is not a descending order, right? 0 is less than 20. So I actually have to have my zeros down here, and I would have to have 20 up here. Or another way I could do this is I could leave my 20 down here, in which case I could take advantage of, you know, of how this output section works, because it says at 20 or less. But what I have to do with my thresholds here is I need to put in a value that's between 70 and 20, right? So you know, so value in the middle there would be 45. So this value is right in the middle. So now all of my threshold values are in descending order. And so since I had some previous questions, you know, about you know, getting training material, you know, so say, you know, so if you know, trying to build your own threshold solver and this is the first time and you're wondering, you know, well, why am I not getting an output here? Well, then the best thing to do is to go to the documentation. So open up our documentation, and if we look on the menu on the right hand side here, if we scroll down under BloodHound reference section, you can see here's all the confidence solvers. So here's a list of all the solvers, and I can click on the threshold solver. And so here's the documentation for it. So if I scroll down to the threshold, let's see, we can see that, so you can see right here it says the threshold values must be entered in a descending order. So, right, now it kind of help you understand what's going on there. So back to this. So let me set this up the correct way, just to kind of show you what this would look like. You know, and you'll notice I'm not using 50 here, right? Normally the stochastic goes between 0 and 100, but for some reason my, let's see, oh, you know what? I thought my line was set to 70, and it's not. Hold on. Let me darken the line, make the lines a little easier to see. Thicken them up a little bit. There we go. Alright, so originally I thought my line on the stochastics was set to 70. I just wasn't seeing it correctly. So that's why I was using 45, because 45 is in the middle of 70 and 20. But I will set this back to 80. And now 50's in the middle. Alright. So now, right, as we look at our output, as we look at the chart, the output from this one solver, right, pretty self-explanatory. Stochastic rises above 80 and we get a long output. Let me stretch this out a little bit, and also let me put a 50 line in here. And I'll stretch this out to make it a little easier to see. So, you know, look here, as soon as our stochastic crosses above the 50, we can see the long output begins to rise. And the closer the stochastic gets to our 80 threshold, you know, the more the output increases until it finally gets to 1. Right, and it's the same for the short side. So, you know, a lot of users kind of don't like this fuzzy logic type of output. You know, they like to just know, you know, they just want to know that, you know, when's the stochastic above 80 or below 20, and they don't want to see this fuzzy logic area in here, right? So they want kind of all of this to just disappear. And so what we can do to do that is, you can see that the way fuzzy logic works, and so the way BloodHound is working, is BloodHound's creating a ratio. So you can see between 80 and 50, you know, you can create a ratio. And so as our indicator changes values between 50 and 80, right, we can take that ratio, and that ratio is applied to BloodHound's output down here. Right, so you can see BloodHound's output increases according to that ratio between 50 and 80. And so if the indicator's essentially is at 50, the output is 0, right? So, like, for example, right here, wow, it happens to look like our stochastic is exactly on the 50 line right there. That's pretty amazing. Let me change the plot to a dot. And there we go. So now we can see exactly where the stochastic is. So we can see that when the stochastic is on 50, or if it's less than 50, because you know, it could be down here at 20, we can see that all of our outputs are set to 0 for the long output. Right, so as we look at the chart, right, the long output goes down to 0, and there's no more long output whenever the stochastic is below our 50 line. Right, and that's all set according to these outputs here. So let's just do a little example here. So let's see if I put a 1 here at 20 or less, now take a look at this. Now we can see when when the stochastic gets down to 20, now BloodHound's long output begins to rise back to 1. So you can see the stochastic is coming down to 50, and so it's approaching 0, and we get to 0. And then as the stochastic comes down and it approaches 20, then the output begins to increase back to 1. Right? So what we did is we created another ratio between 50 and 20. Right? And so our output values are gonna change from 0 to 1. And so that's how, you know, BloodHound's fuzzy logic works. And all of the solvers kind of operate in this principle, where the output of the solver is always, looking at some kind of ratio between 0 and 1 on all of these solvers here. So let me set that back to 0. So I was getting to the point of, how do you turn off this fuzzy logic? Well, what I can do is I can change my values so that there is no ratio anymore. So, right, between 80 and 80, there's no ratio, right? They both equal each other. So now, if we look at our outputs, when we're at 80, we're at 0. And then instantly, when we're at 80 or greater, we jump to 1. So there's this instantaneous transition between 0 and 1, going from 80 to 80. So that eliminates the fuzzy logic part, right? So now we can see here, right? There's no fuzzy logic on the long side, on the long output. So we just turn that off by removing this ratio. So the ratio between these two output values, there is no ratio anymore. And so I can do the same thing on the short side of here. So you can see right now it says at 50 and then at 20. So we're creating a ratio from 0 to 1, going from 50 to 20. So I can take, right, this threshold, I can change it to 20, and now you see how the value here now says at 20. It changed to 20 now. So now the ratio from 0 to 1 is going from 20 to 20, and so therefore we eliminated that ratio. And as you can see in the chart, now there's no short fuzzy logic. We turn that short fuzzy logic off. So, right. So, there's kind of a nice advanced overview of two things. One thing is how the threshold solver works. So very important. Keep this in mind. The threshold values from A to E have to be in descending order. So some indicators like the MACD go into negative numbers. So of course your negative numbers would have to be down here if you're using something like the MACD. Right? And then also, what I explained is how BloodHound's fuzzy logic works and how that relates to the solvers here. So, I think I can give you another example using the comparison solver. These two solvers are probably the most used solvers of all. These two solvers will probably make up anywhere from 80 to 90% of your logic. Those two solvers are going to be the vast majority that you'll use in building a system. Probably the next common one is the crossover solver is probably the next common one down. Well, actually, no, probably, it could be between the crossover or the slope solver there. So, let's see. Actually, you know what? I think let me start with the slope solver. I think this will be a little easier to understand. So I'll go through explaining BloodHound's fuzzy logic and how the outputs work using the slope solver as well. So let me shrink down our stochastics, and how about if we just work with the white SMA? So that's a 10 period SMA. Okay. Now, a little side note: when there's no logic template defined, right? You can see I haven't created a logic template yet. I have to hit the new button to open up a logic template. Since I don't have one created yet, then what we're doing is we're using BloodHound in the standard version mode, right? So BloodHound comes as 3 different versions: the standard, professional, and ultimate. And hopefully you guys all have the ultimate, but the standard version only has the solver tab. So if we're not using the logic tab yet, then we're using BloodHound in basically its standard version mode. And so in the standard version mode, we have a way that you can turn solvers on and off, right? So you can see if I turn both of these off, and what? Just a moment. What happened here? All right, Ninja's thinking for a moment as I turn that solver off. Well, looks like I locked things up. Darn it. All right, let me just end this and get started again. All right, I'm gonna reset my chart here. And unfortunately, I did not give BloodHound a file name that we were working in, so I kind of lost all my work. So, it's good practice. The first thing you should do is give your BloodHound file a name. So let me go do that. So today's the 27th. There we go. And rebuild this threshold solver real quickly here. All right. So you can see that once you kind of get around to using BloodHound for a little bit, once you get proficient, right, you can see you can do stuff very quickly. So I was able to recreate that real quickly. Now, one thing to note, when you have a file name defined here, every time you go and close the interface, it saves your work back to that file. So, before my Ninja had locked up, I had closed the BloodHound interface a couple of times, so that would have saved my work if I had given it a file name. But since I was just rushing through this, that didn't happen. All right, so let me put the slope solver back on here and get this working. All right, so this is an SMA 10 slope. So, all right, so my purpose here is to kind of give you another example of how BloodHound's fuzzy logic works and how its outputs work how the ratios, the ratios of your solver settings and how they correlate with the the various output options here, sections. So in the slope solver, right, this is another, so this will be a good example. You can see we have two different output sections, right? We have an output against direction, and by default those are all set to 0. And then we have an output in direction, and we can see we have two sections here set to turned on by default, and these other two sections are set to 0. Alright, so I'm going to turn that guy off and just leave this slope solver on, and I need to change my SMA to a 10 so it matches what's on the chart. So let's kind of look at the description of our outputs here, of our output sections. So you see here, this one, it says greater than 0 ticks, and it says max in parentheses, and it's referring to the second one down here. It says at 0 ticks, and then once again it has a max in parentheses. And you'll see the next one down says min in parentheses and min in parentheses. What that max and those mins are referring to is this maximum slope parameter and this minimum slope parameter, right? So we can control the slope that we want to look at by changing the parameters in this maximum and minimum. So let's say I want to know when the SMA has a very steep slope on it. So typically 1 tick of slope is fairly steep. And yeah, so you can see on the chart, let me squeeze this down. So we can see on the chart here, we're only getting an output when the slope is fairly steep, right on our SMA here. So let's take a look here at the description here. You'll notice that the description, for some reason in this solver, it's not always updating instantly. I haven't figured out why that is. It's a weird little quirk with .NET. So the way you can get your description to update here is I can just click on a different solver and click back, and that forces .NET to refresh the name, the title in this section. So now you can see it says greater than 1 tick max, and then we have at 1 tick max. Right? And both of these are set to 1. So what this section is saying is that when our slope is greater than 1 tick of slope, we're going to have an output of 1. So, and then this next one down says, when the slope of our SMA reaches a 1 tick slope, then we want a 1 output. And so now the next section down, you can see it says at 0 ticks minimum, right? So our minimum slope is still set to 0 ticks. So if our indicator is at 0 ticks, the slope would be flat. So if our indicator is flat or in between 1 tick of slope, we can see that there is a ratio that can be created, right? So we're creating a ratio between 0 ticks of slope, which is flat, to 1 tick of slope, right? So there's this ratio created between 0 and 1, and so we can see that on BloodHound's output here. Let me stretch this out. All right, so we can see BloodHound's output is varying between an output of 1. Right, so right here the output is 1, and it's varying all the way down to 0, right, when essentially when our moving average is flat. Actually, you know what, right here, this bar, yeah, look at that, this bar right here, our slope is flat. Okay, there's no output there. So we do actually have a flat slope right there. And then you can see as the slope begins to increase, then the output, the solver's output begins to increase, right? And that's a ratio created between a flat slope of 0 and a 1-tick slope of 1. Right, so once again, a ratio is created. So let's say we want to turn this ratio off. Pretty simple. We can just say when we're at 1 tick, set it to 0, and voila. So now when we're greater than 1 tick, then that's when we have an output. Another way that we kind of do the same thing here. So another way around to do this is to put a 1 back in here. Now I can set our minimum slope also to 1 tick, and okay, you can see that the descriptions didn't update on me, so I changed our minimum slope to 1 tick, and it still is reading at 0 ticks here. So let me just click on the other solver and click back. There we go. Now our description is updated there. Yeah, sorry about that. Call coming in. Let me turn that off. Okay. All right. So when now we can see our description says when we're at 1 tick, set it to 0, and then once again it says when we're at 1 tick, set it to 1. So essentially this is accomplishing kind of the same task. So we eliminated the ratio, right? So now there's no ratio here, because there's no ratio between 1 tick of slope to 1 tick of slope. So I hope that kind of was a good way of explaining this. But I think the easier way to do this is just the easiest way to use the slope solver here is just to use the maximum slope, and then if we want to get rid of the fuzzy logic, we can just set that to 0, and that gets rid of the fuzzy logic. So now there's once again there's no ratio between 1 tick of slope and this 1 tick of slope. And since there's no ratio, there's an abrupt change from an output of 0 to an output of 1. And the same principles apply to this against direction. However, the against direction is just kind of a way to reverse the outputs here. So if I set this to 1, set that to 1, right, you can see that essentially I just kind of reversed the outputs. So I could, so let's see, I wonder what maybe if I look for something extreme here. Yeah, I guess it's not that uncommon that if you get an indicator that has, an extreme slope on it, an extreme rise in its slope, that soon afterwards you're just going to go into a little consolidation period, right? So obviously with the you know, with the 10-period SMA, you know, if prices rapidly shoots up, you know, it kind of exhausts itself and gets yourself into a resting period, right, a consolidation period. You know, so you could use the against direction here to kind of warn me that, you know, hey, if I was long, you know, I should start looking for a short output to basically kind of prepare to exit my trade, you know, and use some more advanced logic and figure out a way to, you know, maybe create an exit logic, you know, to get you out of any kind of extreme move, you know, and close out your position and kind of maximize your profits that way. So, let's see. Another. Yeah, how about I'm going to copy this solver here. And I'll set this back to normal. And let me pull the stochastics back up. Let's see. Oh, no wonder my stochastics went to the top. Okay, there we go. Move that MACD back down. There we go. So we could use the slope solver here on the stochastics. Take a look at that. So we'll set this up for our stochastics. That, remember, I modified the parameters on the chart, so we'll set this to 10 and 20. And right, so remember, I have this slope solver. I'm using the against direction there. You know, I could kind of use the, you know, so you could use the slope solver, you know, to kind of identify when, you know, when our stochastic is starting to slope up, and, you know, I don't know, combine it with other indicators. Let's see, maybe yeah, maybe I can combine it with this threshold solver. So let me make a copy of this, and I'm going to reverse the outputs on this stochastic solver here. Alright, I'll just change the name just to kind of tell me that it's reversed. And let's switch over to the logic board here. And I'll start combining these. And let me rename this guy again properly, and I'll just note that it's reversed. So let's take a look at these two solvers independently. So there's our reverse slope solver. There's our reversed stochastic solver. And so if I join these guys together with an AND node, we could build a very simple system that says hey, you might want to start looking for a place to exit your trade. If you're long and our stochastics says hey, we're in the overbought territory, it's still moving up and we're above our threshold, start looking for an exit point around here. So realistically, I guess this slope solver is not needed for the stochastic, for looking at the stochastic, but just some possibilities there. So, all right, I see some comments have come in here, and all right, Celso's got a little comment when I was talking about the slope. Yeah, Celso's saying that 1 tick slope rise to 1 bar would be 45 degrees. Correct. Yes. Yep. Oh, 1-to-1 slope is 45 degrees. Yep. All right. So let's see. Celso's saying I'm trying to get a long signal after the swing indicator plots for a low. You want a long signal when the swing indicator plots for a low, and a short signal after it plots a high. How to do that? Okay. All right. So yeah, we can work on that. So let me get the swing indicator on here. Actually, Celso, let me clarify. Are you talking about Ninja's swing indicator, or the shark indicator swing high-low indicator? So which indicator would you like to work with? Ninjas. Okay. Good. All right. Let's put Ninjas on here. Oops. There we go. Ninjas. All right. We'll use a strength of 5. And I'll make this green a little easier to see. There we go. All right, so Celso would like a long signal when the swing indicator plots a low plot, and he would like a short signal after it plots the high swing. Let's see. Yep. Okay. Now, of course, you got to keep in mind the swing indicator back paints, right? So for right now, I have the strength set to 5. So the swing indicator doesn't actually know that a swing low is made until 5 bars later. So let's see, this is bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's this bar. So a swing is not detected until the 5th bar after the swing point. And then NinjaTrader basically what's called back painting. So it fills the dots back in after it's detected. Let me kind of prove my point here. So I'm going to hit F5 and refresh my chart. Now, as I step forward, so remember, this is our low point, right? So you see how it hasn't been painted yet? Keep going, keep going, keep going. There we go. Boom. Oh, so it actually took an extra bar. So this was the bar that low point was actually detected on. Right? So let me do that again for you. So I marked our low with the little triangle, and the arrows tells us on which bar it's detected. So let me step back, hit F5, and then I can use my arrow keys to step through the chart. And there's our low, right? we can see the swing indicator still hasn't marked it, and look at our dots down here. Right. So keep in mind those dots down there. Still going, still going, still going. Boom. Now look. See how those dots disappeared inside of the white rectangle? And now all of a sudden all the yellow dots are painted up there. So keep that in mind when you're looking at it historically. Right? That's called back painting. Right? So it's very misleading when you're looking on historical charts. All right. So, BloodHound does not back paint. So BloodHound is going to mark your chart when the indicator actually detects the low point or the high point. So BloodHound is going to mark your chart on the bar that has the green arrow here. All right, so let's see how to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for when these plot lines change, when they don't match each other. I'm going to look for when these plot lines no longer match each other, and that'll tell me that that the low swing has changed. Right? So let's open this up, and I will let me just give this some kind of a name here. Okay, so I'm going to create a new logic board. And so let's see what to call this. Swing. All right, so this is going to be a swing high, swing low detector. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm going to be making some comparisons, right? So when, let's see, let me back this up again here. Hit F5. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the swing low plot, and as soon as the swing low plot changes, then that's when we know that a new swing low has been detected. Right? So as I step through this, right, we can see that the low plots are not changing. They're equaling each other. So as we keep going along, and then all of a sudden so when we get to the next bar, all of a sudden our plots don't equal each other anymore. Right? And so that's what we want to detect, is when they don't equal each other anymore. Alright, so with our comparison solver, I'm going to need to put the swing indicator into indicator A. Alright, we'll leave our strength at 5, and we're going to be using the let's see, the swing low. We're going to be using when the low changes to get a long output. So, and we're using the high swing to get a short output. And we're going to be comparing the swing plot, right, to the swing plot. So I need to put the swing indicator in B as well. And I'm going to set my plots the same way. We're still using the low plot to generate long signals, and we're still using the high plot to generate short signals. Keep those the same. Now this one, I need to set my displacement differently. So I think I just need to use a displacement of 1 there to do this. Let's see. Oh, let's plug this in. It's always good to have your solver connected, right? And now historically, yeah, see, this really isn't, historically it's, I'm surprised it's doing this. Let me hit F5 on our chart and let's walk through this. So working with indicators at backpaint can be kind of tricky. So I'm just using the arrow key to walk through this, and yeah, see, now we can see in real time. This is, in a way, this is kind of simulating, you know, real-time tick data coming in by hitting F5 on my chart and you stepping through it with the arrow key. Yeah. So so let me get back to this. So my displacement at 1 is not working. It works historically, but not in real time. So I think I need to change this to 5, actually, because my swing strength is set to 5. So I think this displacement has to match that swing strength. There. Alright, now let's check this out. Okay, so hit F5, and now we'll walk through this. And nope, okay. And let me change the name of the solver here before I forget. So maybe I need to set that to 6. All right. Walk. There we go. Okay. So I had to set my displacement 1 value higher than the swing indicator setting. So there. Now we finally got that detected. So we'll step through this a little slower. Alright, so look, we can see that we got a new low point made right there. Let's see, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think this is the next, yeah, there we go. Alright, yep. So this arrow where BloodHound's marking this is the 5th bar after our low point was made. So as we step through this, and bingo, our low indicator stepped up, and on the 5th bar it detected it. And look, we can see right here on the when the swing indicator detected a new high, BloodHound marked it. So we'll continue to step through this. like, I think we got a new high point here if I remember correctly. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I think the next bar is gonna create a new swing high. Yep, there we go. We can see the plot lines were erased and then they jumped back down, and then BloodHound detected that as soon as the swing indicator changed its plots. Right, so I'll show you that again here. Hit F5 and we'll walk through this. Right, so we can see, right, there's green dots inside of our box here. So, right, filled it up, and we can see there's no right, we can see right here this is empty. Now watch, on the next bar the plots are gonna get erased and then plotted down here on our swing low. I'm sorry, on our swing high. Boom, just like that there. Okay, so all right, so right, I think that did it. So the trick to using Ninja Swing Indicator is, right, you have to use a displacement that's one value higher than the swing strength. So, and as far as the outputs, right, I was able to use just the default output settings, right, for the comparison solver. So that kind of brings up the point of why we have our own swing indicator. So that's why it kind of brings up the point why this swing indicator was created. Let me set this to 5. Yeah, let's see, set it to 5 and I think 2. I think that will match this Ninja's swing indicator, I believe. Let's see, it's not matching it exactly. I'll just play around with the settings here, see if we can get this to match up exactly. Yeah, it looks like, since this swing indicator, this came from Dorshan, and I think he's incorporating I think it's some kind of a GAN formula that also checks for a distance movement as well. So let's see, I know, looks like if I use 4, swing strength of 4, and if I change Ninja's swing strength to 4, I think they won't match up. Yeah, it's interesting. When you use a swing strength of 4, they're matching up, but for some reason when you go to 5, it looks like the formula for the SI swing high-low indicator isn't matching up. It's not matching up anymore. I don't know the details of the formula that Dorshand used, but normally they match up. But I guess my point was, the reason why we used Dorshan's swing high-low indicator is because it doesn't backpaint, right? So if we're looking at the hash red lines, right, we can see it comes all the way out until the fourth bar of this low point. So the plots are not erasing themselves and they're not backpainting themselves. So it shows you it shows you truly when a new high point or a new low point was made without backpainting and kind of tricking you visually. So all right, I hope that takes care of it, and I think we're about done for the day. Let's see, I got 2 more comments in here. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So Celso is asking, can I explain the difference between ninjas and bloodhound? So I guess I kind of explained a little difference. Obviously the plot lines don't backpaint. That's one of the major differences. But also, Dorshand incorporated this distance requirement. So, if I increase this up to, let's see, hopefully 3 is not too much, we'll see that it's going to require some major distance movements. Excuse me. All right, let me set the distance requirement even higher. First, I want to make this red a little more easier to see over the orange, so maybe red will show up a little brighter. All right, so let's change our distance to 5. No. So what I'm trying to do is see if I can get rid of this low point here. See if I can get rid of this low point. If I change my distance requirement great enough, it might eliminate that low point. Let's try 10% or 10. I'm not sure if this is in percentage or not. Oh, okay. Let's see. I think I see it working on the highs here. All right, let's pay attention to this swing high here. I'm going to set this down to 1, right? So you'll notice that this orange swing high, I should say Ninja's swing high here, is being ignored by the SI swing indicator. So let me set this back down to 1. And no, that didn't pick it up. No, let me change that back down to 2. And Yeah, that's right. Let's see. These are being ignored because we can see that price is kind of coming up and touching the same level. So it really didn't define a distinct high point there. All right, let me try and find some places, some other places on the chart here. Well, maybe, yeah, I was kind of thinking that maybe this percent distance only affects the type plots, which I guess would make sense. Let's see. Let's see, I'm going to take the ninja swing indicator off of here just to make it a little easier to see what's going on. All right. And okay, so I need to increase the number of swings to, let's see, 5 I think should be sufficient. And well, I don't seem to be finding any good examples, do I? Gosh, it's looking like the percent distance is not doing a single thing, or I am just not recalling how it's working correctly. All right, I'm going to try a different location here, so change that from 1 to 50. Well, I remember it's been at least a year ago when I kind of did a training workshop on this indicator, and I had found a spot where adjusting this was working. Gosh, I'm just acting like it's not working right now. So, I'll have to kind of take a look at that when I get a chance later on there. So sorry about that, but that should be the two major differences between Ninja Swing Indicator and the SI Swing Indicator is this percent distance but also the back painting. So let's see. All right, I think I got a couple more questions I'll try and wrap up before we end this out for the day. Let's see. Al is asking, is your sensitivity parameter in the swing indicator the number of bars it takes to make a swing? Correct. Yes. So let me open this back up. Yeah, so the swing sensitivity is the number of bars. Correct. Well, I gotta say, I don't know if it directly, if it's only the number of bars that it's counting, or if he's also incorporating some sort of GAN formula into it as well, which would be more than just counting number of bars. It could also incorporate price movement as well. So, you know, like I said, we didn't write the original code for this, so I don't know exactly how the formula is working. You know, I just know from using it quite a bit and just, you know, basically back engineering it myself. But for the most part, yeah, this is pretty much correlating with a number of bars count. So, all right, let me set that back up, and let me put Ninja Swing Indicator back on here. All right, let's see what else we have on the question board here. And she also asked if I could switch to the Renko bars. It might be easier. Yeah, that's probably a good point. But you know, I should have seen it on just these plain old minute bars as well. Al has a good suggestion. You know, there's several different kind of versions of this swing indicator from what I've seen. And so Al is saying the Dorshan's price action swing indicator, which is available on Big Mike's, he gives the option or the choice of a standard swing or a GAN swing. All right, so there's another possibility there for you guys. Is you know, you could, that's probably an updated version of the swing indicator up there on Big Mike's. So this version here is probably 3 years old or so, I imagine. So let's see, what recommendation do you have to learn how to use the program? Thanks. All right, so yeah, I'm sure we got a bunch of new people in here. And so let's, I'll kind of show you where to get started. You know, I guess, you know, the first thing to know is our email address. So we are here, Keith and I are here to, you know, help you out with your Bloodhound questions. You know, just kind of note, you know, we don't build your system. If you have, you know, a trading methodology already in place, or you have an idea of how, you know, if you have an idea, a set of rules and logic, and you know, and indicators that you use, you know, and you want to start testing that methodology, if you want to just hire somebody to just get it done real quick, that's what Daniel does. Us at Shark Indicators, we're not for hire for that particular purpose. You can hire us, you know, by the hour for one-on-one consulting, and if you do that, we add the stipulation that it becomes also a training session as well. So therefore, we take longer to help you put your system together because we turn it into a training system. You know, whereas Daniel, if you want someone to just build it real quick and you don't care about, you know, learning the logic and the ins and outs of BloodHound, you know, you can just go to Daniel and say, look, this is how my system works. Just build it for me, you know, and be done with it. If you want to hire us, you know, per hour, then, you know, we'd be glad to build your system, but we make it a training session, right? So therefore, it's going to take longer for us to build your system with you. So, you know, so that is available, but you know, primarily we do support through our ticketing system. So just keep this email address, you know, in hand, and you know, and ask us questions, and we'll explain, you know, how to set the solvers up, and you know, how to set the logic nodes up and the function nodes up, you know, and everything. One thing that is very helpful, if you're trying to explain a you know, a set of rules to us, you know, say like, you know, you have indicators on your chart and you're trying to explain what those indicators need to do, you know, to set up for a trade. It's very helpful if you send in screenshots, you know, annotated screenshots, you know, so you can, you know, if you take take your Ninja screenshot here and you know, put a piece of text on here, you know, just say something like, you know, the moving average, you know, must cross, you know, above price. You know, put little annotations, and you know, you can put a little arrow, something like that. You know, marking up your chart to kind of help us, you know, understand what's going on. You know, the old adage that, you know, a picture says 1,000 words. That really helps Keith and I understand, you know, what you're trying to say to us a lot better than having you trying to explain it all in just, you know, written words. So there's another suggestion, you know. So we're, you know, glad to help you out, and, you know, tell you which solvers to use, you know, and which logic nodes to use and stuff like that, to get you going. So as far as training material, let me show you how to get to the training material. So if you put BloodHound on your chart, so these green bars down here is BloodHound on the chart, and the solid green means there's no logic in it right now. And you'll see here's the button up top here. It says it's an empty template. So BloodHound, what that means is there's no file open in BloodHound. So BloodHound doesn't have anything inside of it right now, right? So it's completely empty. But anyways, if you just open up BloodHound and you click on File, and you can see there's documentation and there's video tutorials. So we can go to the video tutorials, right? Now open up your web browser, like so. And so, you know, first step is I would go through these video tutorials. You know, the first one here is very critical. Walks you, actually, I don't know, I'm sorry, the second one here. The first one you might have already seen. It's just kind of a quick overview, you know, of what BloodHound does. So it'll just walk you through a quick crossover system. This tutorial number 1 is pretty important because it'll walk you through, you know, as it says, the BloodHound interface. All right, so that one's pretty important. You know, the next ones here are just some, you know, simple tutorials. As we go further down, let's see, here's another important one, tutorial 5, the getting price data. So this will show you how to use an indicator called Chameleon. which provides all the price data, such as the high, low, and open of a bar. So if a lot of people use the high price and the low price as part of their trading conditions, so watching this video is pretty important. It'll show you how to use Chameleon to use the high price or the low price with the solvers in your system. And then another important one is the logic nodes. If you're kind of new to logic, understanding how the various logic nodes work, is pretty important. So tutorial 6 there is a critical one. And then you can get started with our quick start guide here. And this will take you through more in-depth training videos. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Not the quick start guide. Let's see. Yeah, well, it is available on here. You'll see that there's the Learn BloodHound and training resources, but actually, I'm sorry. Go down here to the BloodHound guide and the getting started. So these getting started will take you through more in-depth videos. Once again, this is the same quick start video as on the previous page, so it's the same kind of introductory video, so you don't have to watch that twice. But in here, in the taking off section, this is the this will take you back to the tutorial videos, so which I had just shown you. I'll walk you through there. And then here, so this will take you on to step 2. And step 2, in here is the in-depth videos on each of the solvers. So you can see this video is going to walk you through the bar direction solver, the bar length solver, and the indicator change in slope solver. It's just going to kind of walk you through them in order of how each of the solvers work. Let's see, there's a couple of tips and tricks videos in here that might be helpful. So you probably could skip this for now. There's a video here for using the time session solver. So say you want to restrict your signals to only show during the morning market hours or just the regular trading hours. You can restrict your BloodHound signals to only those times, so therefore you don't get any signals during the overnight session. There's also a tips and trick video. So if you get really advanced and you start building an exit logic for Raven, so if you start using Raven to auto execute your trades and you want to make sure that your trades are all closed out before the market closes, then there's a video in here that will show you how to build what's called an exit logic, right? And that's used for Raven, and therefore it'll have Raven close out all your contracts so you don't leave a contract open overnight. But down here, building a system, this is a workshop video that kind of takes you from point A to point Z. So it's kind of like that quick start guide or that quick start video, but this is a little more in depth. So I build a fairly simple trading system from scratch, and then show you how to load it into Raven, and then to start building a automated or semi-automated trading system. So this kind of shows you how to put all the various components together, going from building a system in BloodHound to putting the system into Raven and to auto execute. And then here is some more thorough training videos for Raven. So these videos here will focus on how to use Raven. right, so Eldon, I hope that gets you off to a good start there. All right, well, guys, I think that wraps up the questions there. So I hope you guys have a good weekend. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye, guys.